We entered Europe and the US about 12, 13 years ago. We are unknown, brand-wise unknown. We were at that time. We had Made in India as our label, right? We said we will bring in lifetime warranty in the US. We used to call it asterisks-free warranty. If we don't do have the quality and the processes to fulfill this, we'll be bankrupt in a second. So that's the value that we brought in. That was an audaciously different value proposition that made some noise in the market, got us attention. Right? In Europe, we probably have about 5% share of the market and roughly the same, maybe 6% share in the US. Took about 12 years.
How you made this transition by offering greater value to the customer, better than the competition, and transited from not even the top 100 to get in amongst the top 10 and now number 6, and aiming to get to amongst the top 3.
Well, when we entered Europe and the US about 12, 13 years ago. And obviously we are unknown, brand-wise unknown. We were at that time. And we had Made in India as our label, right? So we had to present a certain value proposition to the customer, which was disruptive. And through that value proposition, convey a certain standard of the company that was far, far away from price. This was critical. So what did we do? We said, we will bring in lifetime warranty in the US, right? Oh, that was disruptive, right? So we said, we are so confident about the quality that we produce. We are offering this. No strings attached. We used to call it asterisks-free warranty. You see normally in the advertisement, they will say this much warranty and there'll be an asterisk.
That's right.
And right at the bottom, all the disclaimers will be there. We said ours is an asterisk-free warranty, lifetime. We're going to present it. And this is the value. And we do this. If we don't have the quality and the processes to fulfill this, we'll be bankrupt in a second, right? So that's the value that we brought in. That was an audaciously different value proposition that made some noise in the market, got us attention, right? That then slowly the gear started shifting, right? And now, okay, in Europe, we probably have about 5% share of the market and roughly the same, maybe 6% share in the US. So these are significant shift in the needle for an Indian company making capital equipment that goes into a factory, and if it fails, the factory shuts down. To be able to build 5% share of the market is not easy, but then that's how we architected the whole thing. Yeah.
So how much time it took you to get to 5% share of the market?
Took us about 12 years.
Oh, 12 years. 12 Great. You also mentioned, just now that you wanted to be asterisk-free
Warranty.
quality
Yeah.
and commitment, lifetime warranty. And then obviously you have to make products which will live up to that reputation. So which came first? Did you first define that and then started improving quality, or you improved it to a level that had the confidence to define it?
It was the latter. Like I said, an Indian product cannot fail. So we said We've got to build a quality which is not good. As good is not good enough. It had to be far, far better. So we went deep into the market, documented the defect levels of all our competitors, right? What is their standard? What is their defect level? And we said, it's not about benchmarking our current defect levels. It's about benchmarking the competitors' defect levels and seeing absolutely exponentially higher than them, right? So then we worked backwards and in our processes and said, okay, what is design related? What is process related? What is supplier related? What is our own internal sales related? Put it all together and we said, let's move the needle. It's only when we got there, this was a strategic part of that journey towards getting into those markets, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think you answered my question. Yeah. That intent was there.
Absolutely.
To get to that, and this is a strategy to get there.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think this is a remarkable achievement.
Yeah. So we don't try to sell on price. In fact, if you look at our list price, is almost the same as all the competitors in the market. We're not lower. We're not lower at all. No.
Remarkable. Jay, one aspect is how did you bring about a change in culture within your organization from what it was to what it is today in terms of quality improvement, development of new products, disruptive products, value-added products, which you just explained? That'll be good for us to learn.
So let me step back a little bit, Janak, from the quality and technology and all. I will talk a little bit about the people who made that transformation. Right. So I still remember when I joined the business, it was the time of the year when we were doing a wage negotiation. For me, that was it was an eye-opener. Right? So it was sitting across the table, the management was willing to give 500, but they made an offer of 200. On the other side, labor was willing to accept 600, but they made a demand of 1,000. So it was almost like a fish market negotiation. For me, this fundamental problem is trust. There is no trust. Now, when you don't have trust, you can't build an organization where people believe that there is a collective larger good that we need to pursue, right? Whether it's quality, whether it's technology, whether it is anything, right? So the trust had to be built. So we said next wage negotiation is not going to be a negotiation. It's going to be a collective convergence. And we said we need to build a model for that, right? So we built a model which said the company is responsible for shop floor employee standard of living. Now, that assurance, if you give, there is a huge amount of fear that is taken out, trust gets built. So we said, how do we do that? So we said, let us co-create definition of standard of living by elements of consumption, right down to the most granular thing like a haircut, school fees, the uniform, durables, so many kilograms of tomatoes, whatever, everything was documented. And we said, the shop floor employees will go to actual shops in their neighborhood and refix the salary every year. So it was like a transformation. So we said, this is what we will do. And lo and behold, suddenly the trust levels went up. We don't have a union in our factory, right? So every 5 years, we sit with the employees and their families and co-create the new standard, right? Now, the reason I'm narrating this is, by the way, this is in the Harvard Business School library as a case study.
Wow.
Right? Now, this was important to build that foundational trust because people come to work for appreciation of their brain and not their brawn. Yeah. Whereas on the shop floor, we are only looking at people for their brawn, but we are wasting the brain, right? Now, to utilize the brain, there has to be a sense of, I belong here, I need to contribute here, I want to contribute here. So this foundational building of trust, where people felt that they belonged to the company, right, was critical, right? Now, once that was done, then it required for us to build that same level of empathy at the white-collar level towards the shop floor employees. Because there is, education brings a certain arrogance, and therefore we had to sort of say, no, you are responsible for speaking up for the people with the lowest voice in the company, and therefore you build trust, right? And therefore you build participation. So in our journey, whether it's our quality journey finally towards Deming, our technology journey where we are now delivering disruptive products for the first time in the world, the underlying thing was trust and a sense of fairness and equity in the thing. That was, if you ask me, can you give me an A plus B is equal to C kind of an equation for that value? I cannot. But I can tell you anecdotally so many instances where people participated way beyond the call of duty, right, in the larger good for the company. I think so that was a key foundational thing in our transformation. The second was, we said, process delivers performance. People don't, yeah. You can have the best person in the world, the most knowledgeable person in the world. Organizations deliver quality horizontally, not vertically, right? Organizations tend to manage companies vertically, but quality is delivered horizontally. And horizontal management is about process, right? And ownership to the process rather than ownership to your function, right? That switch where we brought in collective responsibility to the end goal, right? It is not about whether it is, I'm in product development, I'm in procurement, I'm in, supplier quality. No. It is a process that finally you deliver to the customer, and that horizontal management was very key. Yeah. We had to bring that transformation of saying, how do you bring horizontal management as a means in the company, right? You had to build that muscle. The general tendency is vertical management. So I think that was a key foundation in our journey. Yeah.
So then, white collar, you did that, and I think it's a great example of a cross-functional management
absolutely.
to deliver the outcomes.
Yeah.
Now, how do you, like you correctly said, the education brings a degree of arrogance, and in most companies we find the design and development group of people who are probably the most educated, a little more difficult to get them involved in this kind of. How did you manage to get them involved in this whole process? Because without them, making disruptive technologies may not be that easy.
I think it's about getting getting people to imagine the invisible. There is a product, visible, improve it is one level of challenge. But there is a product, but visualize something that doesn't exist. And getting people to get excited about that. Just that visceral description of that imagination, right? And say that's really what the customer's unstated want is. How can we take it there, right? Let's go out and make mistakes. It's okay, right? Let's fail. That's okay, right? But let's go do something. Just get that excitement up. I think the company's willingness to let people fail is very important, right? Embracing failures, celebrating failures, not penalizing people. The minute you penalize people on failure, then whole initiative, entrepreneurship, innovation dies, right? So I think it's important to say, go and do something, Doesn't matter. Let's fail. It's okay. But let's do something. I think that was for a lot of the engineering-minded people, it's that freedom to experiment that gives them a lot of energy, right? And you let them do it and support them when they fail, give them that safety net. I think the next round becomes a success, right? So I think that's, but Janak, it's not a straight arrow. It's, you just keep doing it, you learn and you keep improving. There is no one formula that will just work.
You also talked about the brawn and the brain.
Yeah.
The brawn, of course, typically we think workmen, people at the first lower rung of the hierarchy, cannot think on their own. They cannot add value in terms of they come here to do what they are told to do.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what I sense the Japanese changed, got them involved in development of the system for which they are responsible. The ownership went there.
Yeah.
And they will still think they are here as physical bodies and I can get the most once they are present. But if we don't involve them in their thinking process to contribute to the improvement, that's where the suggestion scheme, Q circle approach came with that intent in mind. Get them involved in terms of using their brain power. How do we get their heart involved in terms of involvement? Motivation.
I think the difference between a blue collar and a white collar is a white collar employee has options in the job market. A blue collar employee at the level of compensation that we pay has almost zero options. Now, you've got to understand the mind of that kind of a blue collar employee, They are kind of, in a way, in their mind, slaves to the job, right? Now, the more you make it look like that, the more it gets entrenched, right? So the idea would be to say, no, you're not a slave to this job. There is no job in the company that is not inaccessible to you. You remove that glass ceiling, right? So what happens is you're coming into the job with a certain level of hope, because a blue-collar employee typically works without hope because they're going to be blue-collar for the rest of their lives. That's what is in their mind. But if you remove that glass ceiling and say, tell me, these are all your options for getting trained, getting upskilled, and you move up, right? It changes the whole equation, right? So you're no longer a slave to a particular job. You have mobility, right? I think that's very important. And the minute that happens, there is a certain hope that you bring into the mind of the blue collar employee. That creates a huge commitment. That is one part. The second part is the job has to be architected where you demand that participation. It demands that participation. So, for instance, in our company, we don't have supervisors. So, the entire shop floor is self-managed teams. There are teams of people by rotation play the scheduling role, the quality role, the material feed role. They rotate and do that role themselves. So what happens is there is accountability to delivering that value in that job, right? So it's not just about desiring them a category of employees to step up, but architecting the job in such a way that there is a responsibility, right? So you provide that responsibility, right? So it's a combination of these two.
Yeah, I think from what you stated just now, the whole concept of QC circles,
Yes,
training people to work as a team,
correct.
developing their own system and improving those systems.
Right.
And you, in the process, show them how to use a PDCA approach of QC story.
Yes,
Actually, same PDCA is taught in business schools.
yes.
So in a way, you made them as think like managers
Sure.
and give them the responsibility.
Sure.
So another aspect is how do we get the middle and the senior level people motivated? Because there's also a degree of motivation that is required because they're going to lead these people ultimately.
Yeah. So the middle management in the company is the what I call as the on one side the silent sufferers, and on the other side the biggest inertia in the company, right? So if that middle is not robust and agile and enthusiastic, we have a problem, because they are the ones who take the message at the top and without diluting take it to the bottom. And they are the ones who take the message at the bottom and convert it into working solutions that makes everyone. So they are a very critical, and that's a huge challenge. That's a huge, huge challenge. I don't think we have a perfect solution yet. We're doing multiple things to keep rotations, to make sure that there is no monotony. New person comes in, innovates, brings different perspectives and points of view. But there is no clear answer yet. But that is in my opinion, the biggest challenge. I don't think it is just for Indian companies, and I think it is the same all over the world. It's that silent sufferers in the middle who take the brunt from the top, they take the brunt from the bottom, and they're kind of turbulent in the middle. Yeah.
So it's equally then at the senior level, especially in the functions like marketing, design and development, technology development, is a degree of arrogance because they're the most knowledgeable in the company.
Absolutely.
I often think they're so good they can never make a mistake.
Yeah.
So how did you bring about a change in their way of thinking, looking for something more aspirational than what they did in the past?
I think the first challenge for us in terms of changing the mindset at the leadership level is to make people believe it's possible. First of, because you set it in the context of India, you're quite happy to say, I will be very good in India. But here we were saying we want to be the best in the world, right? It was a bit of an alien concept. You say, okay, fine. That's what you want. That's fine. the convergence is always India. Yeah. But to break that and say, no, the convergence is not India. India is one of the many markets, right? Your centricity should be global, not India, right? It takes a long time to bring that change. I think the most critical is to walking the talk, where you're saying we want to go, for instance, what I was talking about earlier about the lifetime warranty, right? You put something like that on the ground and say, this is what we're going to offer. Yeah. And everybody sort of wakes up and says, seriously? You're going to do this in America? Yes, but we've done it for the last 10, 12 years. We've built the quality. So now is the time to prove that it is good, right? So the minute you do that, then there is again, the wheels start changing slowly. And over a period of time, they say, wow, we have lifetime warranty. It's been 10 years. Our failure rates are one of the lowest, and our warranty costs are one of the lowest in the industry. We're doing something right? So that pride and that self-confidence starts coming up. Yeah. Then the confidence with which they go and explore other audacious goals just increases, right? So it's a journey, Janak. It cannot happen with just one switch. Yeah.
See, you're fortunate in running a business of your own, so you have a long-term time available for you to do that.
Sure.
In most of the organizations, the CEO is for 5 years, 6 years. Find it very difficult to
Absolutely
look at a long-term perspective. What do you think the role of the vision you defined played in this whole journey?
So the starting point post-liberalization, the writing was clearly on the wall, right? So it was not a personal desire, but a absolute compulsion. But it's very difficult to get people to see what is not visible, right? So I could see the writing on the wall, but it was not visible to the others. So convincing them was the hardest task, right? But sometimes, you try the convincing route, but also you put the compulsion, say, sorry, this is what we're going to do, right? So that vision, so that was one part. And the other part of it was the vision had to have credibility, right? You can't just say, I want to be a global player. Say, why? What's the logic, right? So we had to go in and say, this is the size of the global market. This is the size of the Indian market. Where do you really want to play, As a businessman, would you go and play in a small market or would you play in a large market, right? So we had to build the data and credibility to the whole thing. And the second part is it's not just top line. Look at the bottom line of all the large global players. They are double the profitability of what we are, right? So bigger market, higher profit is outside in the world. I said that's where we should be, right? So building that credibility with data, and that was critical.